I want to kind of take some time and look at some problems for the distance formula. We're going to do it two ways. We've shown a little easier way to do it, kind of break it down. But first I kind of want to go over a video to show you how to draw the triangle in. So I've got some points here. Let me draw this out. So up here at 5, so negative 5, 5.
Teachers and student parties in motion. At this time, we need juniors K through Z to go to the little theater to have their pictures made. That's juniors K through Z. Report to the little theater to have your picture made.
Okay, so this is the segment that we want to calculate the distance of. So what I want to do is I want to go from the lowest y value to the highest y value along this straight line. So I'm going to make a triangle. It's going to be a right triangle. And then I also want to go from the lowest x value to the largest x value. So I'm going to go from negative 5 to 1 along this line. And that makes a right triangle. And then what I can do is I can just calculate the distance using the Pythagorean theorem, right? This distance here is going to be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that distance is 6. And this distance is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So once I have all that, all I have to do is use the Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared plus b squared equals c squared. My a value would be 6, so I've got 6 squared plus 7 squared equals c squared. So that's going to be 36 plus 49 equals c squared. So then I've got c squared equals 36 plus 49, which is going to be 75. And then I just take the square root of both sides. So I get root 75, right? Square root undoes a square, so I'm going to square root both sides. And then if I use the calculator, all I have to do is type in second square root 75. And if you think about it, it's in between 81 and 64. So it's going to be about 8 point something. So you can kind of, 8.6. So you can kind of approximate square roots like that. There's different ways to approximate. So C equals 8.6. And you can do 2 decimals, so 8.66 units. So all I did was calculate that length, this length here, using the Pythagorean theorem. Okay? So if that's easier for you, you can do it that way, but sometimes you're not given nice coordinates. So in that case, you'd have to use the distance formula. Now I know in my class, and maybe for whoever's watching if you're not in my class, it's a little more difficult to see whenever you're using the distance formula. If you're not an algebra person, I want to use coordinates that are kind of different here. So let me use, not these. Let me use this one. I was kind of showed this morning. So let's say I've got these two coordinates, and instead of graphing, I just want to use the distance formula. So the distance formula is going to be the square root of y2 minus y1 squared plus x2 minus x1 squared. Okay? And the way that you do this is, right, you say, okay, this one's x1 and this one's x2. It really doesn't matter. I mean y2, not x2. y1. x1, y1, and then this one is x2, y2. And it really doesn't matter which way you do it as long as you can calculate the distance between them and square them. So you can make distance positive. So the problem is like when you're adding x1, when you're taking x2 and subtracting x1 from it, if you plug it into this formula, you're going to get some not so nice arithmetic. And a lot of people struggle with that. And that's okay. We can figure out a different way. So if I was going to do it the way that I taught it in class, I'd do x2, I'd start with y2, so I do 4 minus, and then y1 is a negative 9. So I'd have to keep those straight. I'd have to switch the negatives and then square it. And then over here for x2, I've got negative 1 minus 2 squared. Right, so I've got 4 minus a negative 9, so that's addition actually. So then I get 13, and that's going to be 13 squared. And then over here I've got negative 1 minus 2, which is negative 3 squared. And then I have to add those two. And I have to remember that when I square a negative, I get a positive. So I've got d equals, I think that's 169, yeah. 169 plus 9. So that's going to be 178. That's what's that. And then, so that's just above 13. So that's going to be 13 point something. So if I go over here, I can calculate it that way. And I get 13.3. And the problem with that is a lot of people struggle with those signs, okay? So I was shown this, and I think this is absolutely awesome. You're trying to calculate the distance between the x values and the y values and square them. The distance formula is just the Pythagorean Theorem between 2 points, okay? So you take 2 points and create a right triangle out of it, and you got the distance between the two. So really, what I can do is take both of these x values, or both of these y values, I'm going to start with the y's, and I can put them on a number line, okay? So the two y values, I've got negative 9 is over here, and then 0 is here, and then my other x value is 4. And then all I have to do is think of the distance, the total distance. This is 4, and this is 9. So it's 4 plus 9 is that distance. And if you notice, this is a little easier to think about, and it's not as time-consuming as trying to switch signs and keep things straight over here. So 4 plus 9 would be 13. And if you notice, I get the same thing here. So really, I could skip steps. So I could have 13 squared. And then if I want to do this one, all I have to do is find the distance between 2 and negative 1. So I do the same number line. Over here, and I think about where is negative 1? Well, here's 0. Negative 1's right about here. And then 2's somewhere over here. So what's the distance here from 0? That's 2. And then what's the distance here from 0? That's 1. Okay? So that's going to be 3. And then what you'll notice is I get 169 plus 9. And then I get 178. So that was a little easier. And notice we didn't even have to draw the triangle out. So I hope that helps. That was really, really helpful to me. I think I'm going to do one more and call it a day, showing you that method. So I've got negative 10 -7, -8, 1. So this is x1, y1. And this is x2, y2. And I'm going to calculate the distance between those and square them. So I'm going to do the y's first. So I've got 0 here. I've got 1 over here and -7 over here. So this distance is 7. This distance is 1. So 7 plus 1 is going to be 8. So in that square root, I'm going to have 8 squared. And then over here, I'm going to do the same thing with the x's. So I've got -10, and then -8 here, and 0. And well, what's the distance between -8 to -10? Well, that's going to be 2. So that's going to be 8 squared plus 2 squared is equal to the square root of 64 plus 4. So it's going to be 8 point something, okay? So it's going to be 68. So whenever I type that into my calculator, second square root, 68, 8.24 units. Okay? And just check to make sure that's right. Yeah.
Teachers and students, please excuse this interruption. This is the last call for any junior that